How did we get here? What things have happened to get to this exact moment in time? We have made some great strides in society and as a people. We have gone through enlightenment, wars, depressions, natural disasters, crazy leaders, amazing leaders, and forward thinkers. They have all contributed to shaping the world we know today. Philosophy is the study of fundamental nature of knowledge, reality, and existence. How has philosophy and its principles helped shape the world and the US in particular today? Let's begin with the two most famous philosophers and the men who transcended philosophy and encouraged outside-the-box thinking: Plato and Aristotle. Plato was a student of Socrates. He was an idealist philosopher and one of the world's first metaphysical thinkers. His theory of the forms, although complex, is one of the most recognizable. Plato's beliefs was that the world we live in is a poor imitation of the real world. The natural world we perceive through our senses reveals only fallen, shadow, incomplete versions of this ideal truth. Something or someone is beautiful when it pertains to the form of beautifulness. A person is kind when it pertains to the form of kindness. An object is round when it pertains to the form of roundness. Furthermore, none of these things that we can see, touch, sense, smell, taste, or hear are as perfect as their true form. On the other hand, we have Aristotle. To Aristotle, being is to be a particular thing, and it is a combination of matter and form. Everything is made out of something. That something is made with a particular form, and without that thing, there would be nothing to make, and therefore would not exist. Unlike Plato, Aristotle believed the form determines what that thing is. Aristotle believed that, for example, if a coin was round, it would not be of the form roundness. In his view, roundness would not exist without round things. Therefore, he believed objects make up the forms. Plato believed in two realms, one of eternal, never-changing world and the physical world, and Aristotle believed without particular things, there would be no forms. After these two men spread their ideas, this opened the door for many other forward thinkers and helped shape the world we live in today. Some people changed it for the good and some for the bad. Coming into philosophy class, I had no idea what to expect. Then I read about Plato and Aristotle, and although their ideas were very complex to me, I quickly realized I had more in common with them than I thought. I like to think of myself as an outside-the-box thinker. I love challenging people and their beliefs. I want to know why they feel the way they feel, and I like to get different opinions from many different people. How can I relate the wisdom I have learned from some of the great philosophers of the past to my present? I do it every day. In fact, philosophy opened the door for many forward thinkers to come out and tell people how they feel. I'm going to talk about some of my favorite philosophers in the history of the world, and then I'm going to talk about how they have affected my life. When President Lincoln came to office, he already knew he did not want to continue the ways in which America was going. America was a place that looked at black people as if they were property. Not many people felt compelled to think otherwise. He wanted to reform America and wanted to make people see that all man is created equal. He decided that this was important for the future of the country, and although it began a civil war, he thought it was necessary. He kept the Union together and decided on the Emancipation Proclamation that allowed black people to finally be freed. Che Guevara was a revolutionary leader. Guevara was deeply moved by the extreme poverty which he felt was incredibly unjust. He went to many different countries and tried to reform those in need. The United States was not a big fan of Guevara, but he did not care. In his eyes, he was doing what he could do to help those who needed his help. He wanted more education in Latin America. He eventually helped Fidel Castro take over Cuba. What became of Cuba at the hands of Fidel was probably not what he envisioned. Adolf Hitler was an Austrian-born German politician and the leader of the Nazi Party. Hitler was Chancellor and dictator of Germany. He was at the center of the founding of Nazism, the start of World War II, and the Holocaust. Hitler launched World War II and bears responsibility for the deaths of millions, including 6 million Jewish people in the Nazi genocide. If it had not been for the US, Hitler would have probably taken over the world. Martin Luther King is one of the most influential people in history. He was a civil rights activist who did not believe in violence. In 1963, he delivered one of the most beautiful speeches in history, the I Have a Dream speech. Although the Emancipation Proclamation freed all slaves, segregation existed in many places in the country. Segregation was at its peak in the South. People were considered separate but equal. There was a lot of hate in the country, and Martin Luther King wanted to put a stop to it. He preached that all men are created equal. His leadership and his words brought many different types of people together, and his philosophy lives on today. Harriet Beecher Stowe was a lifelong anti-slavery campaigner. Her novel, Uncle Tom's Cabin, was a bestseller and helped to popularize the anti-slavery campaign. Abraham Lincoln would later remark her books were a major factor behind the American Civil War. Malala Yousafzai is a Pakistani schoolgirl who defied threats of the Taliban to campaign for the right to education. She survived being shot in the head by the Taliban and has become a global advocate for women's rights, especially the right to education. We have made some great strides as a culture. Who would have thought 50 years ago that America would have a person of color in office, or a female favored to become the next leader of the free world? Even the Catholic Church is trying to evolve. They announced a plan to have more tolerance towards gay people. There have been many people whose philosophy has helped shape the world today. Here we are. It is a fast and semi-chaotic world. The rise of social media has allowed every person to have a voice that can be heard in an instant. We can post our ideas, philosophies, beliefs, and anything we want, and others will see it, pass it around, share it, comment, counter opinion, and all of the above. We have even gotten to the point where intolerance is unacceptable, and because of so much public opinion, companies fire people, stars go into hiding, famous people lose endorsements, conspiracy theories run rapid. Where will we go next? These are some of the people whose philosophies have helped shape the world that we live in today. But how has philosophy changed my world in particular? Religion is one perfect example. I grew up going to church every Sunday. I prayed every night. And one day I just thought to myself, maybe church isn't for me. And not because of what church represents, but because of what particular religions represent. I started to question things a few years ago, and I felt really uncomfortable by it. Sometimes I felt like maybe I don't believe in God the way I thought I did. But the truth is, I do believe in God. I do believe in Jesus Christ, and I am a Christian. However, it's okay to ask questions. It's okay to go outside the norm. It's okay to disagree with your religion.